Hello, once again, folks, to another episode of I Ruin Art Series, where I take some of your favorite childhood things and I ruin it. Today's episode, we're taking a little bit of a break from the character drawings to go towards something still pretty big for a lot of folks' childhoods, the PlayStation 1. So, without further ado, let's see how it goes. All right. So, today we're going to be doing the PlayStation 1 by Sony. So, I actually really enjoyed doing this one. My very first home games console was actually a PlayStation 1. Before that, I had like a Game Boy Advance, one of the purple fellers with the gray accents and whatnot. But physically, for my very first home console, it was exclusively just PlayStation 1. And I remember myself and my sisters going around trying to just play around in the mansion or the very first level of Tomb Raider and just never quite getting it right, or trying to figure out how to play Oddworld Apes Odyssey, or even just fun times like getting our butts kicked by my mom because she was just absolutely head over heels in love with playing Tony Hawk with us. Honestly, I miss those days. Not as not as close as we used to be. Might need to get a PlayStation again. But real easy, quick concept drawing for the beginning here. I mean, how else do you draw a box with a circle on top? But we are going to do something a little bit different this time. We're going to actually preemptively get our color palette. I know, insanity. But that being said, there's our basic version of the PlayStation. There's our color palette, going through with those blues, red, the greenish teal, and then that PlayStation 1 gray with a little bit of yellow in it. Because I believe my reference image was maybe not the best condition for PlayStation. But alright, then here's us going through and obviously got to change the perspective a little bit. We're going to look at it a little more head on. I know it's a little bit more slender than what the original reference was, but that's not a problem. Well, Sony makes slim versions of their consoles all the time. Now, to any of you that can kind of just pick up and guess what I'm talking, what I decided for today's video, feel free to leave a comment down below if you got to this point and already know. Because today we are making it into a mimic. So I loved the concept of the mimic because it brought together a couple of different things from my childhood that I ended up missing. Like I mentioned when I was doing the original drawing, my sisters and I used to play games together and try to figure out how to play these games that were wildly out of our concept range for how old we were. And my mom playing Tony Hawk with us, or my dad watching while we were playing. The mimic itself has a certain place in my heart too, because my dad is a huge fantasy nerd, and I remember him and his friends coming over or him rather having his friends come over and then playing like Dungeons and Dragons or going through and marathoning all of the Lord of the Rings franchise. So having something that's so kind of iconic to the fantasy genre mixed in with this piece of technology, almost modernizing the original concept, really really hit close. But yeah, I suppose I should maybe talk about this funky tongue coloring while we're still on it. So I decided I wanted the underside of the tongue to kind of have that hint uh, for the original PlayStation logo, how it has for the S below it, and that gradient between that goldenrod, the green, and then the blue, and then that green and blue kind of matching on the buttons. And then going with that iconic PlayStation red for the top of the tongue, kind of just outright mimicking the logo that would normally be on top of the lid for the disk drive. And then now we're going to go in and give it our colors, pretty well basic. I mean, it's gray. Like, we're just going through and cleaning it up right now. Checking our line work, making sure everything's merged down. Cleaning off our palette from the corner there. Before we go through and draw our set. So for the background, I kind of wanted to keep it relatively modern, but not too modern, almost like it's someone's at-home retro gaming setup. So it's going to be a lot of like harsh, straight lines and angles. Back there in the corner, I'm just reusing that gray from the PlayStation to make a CRT setup. Obviously, keep the screen off, but don't need to have none of that flickering and burning. But then we're going to do just kind of a really basic beige tabletop that they're both resting on. I probably could have, if I would have thought about it, put in some kind of cables running between the PlayStation and the TV. Maybe like cables running off for the controllers, but I'm thinking about it that hard. And then we just kind of finish off the background with some of that wood paneling. Now for one of my favorite parts, the masking. So I wanted it to have kind of this like not quite fully forward glow look for the shadows, but not fully above it either. So just kind of a lighter shadow under the disc tray to show that it's still kind of hovering over top there. The shadowing around the base of the tongue, because at the bottom, more shadowing at the top of the tongue that we get to eventually. The bottoms of the teeth, where they're naturally just going to be hiding in the shadows. Around the buttons. So the sharper angles around the tongue and the underside of the console. Some more of the interior of this tray before cleaning up our lines around and giving those edges a blur to kind of soften them up a little bit. But yeah, then we go through and we give it our highlights. Now I know I talked a lot about PlayStation games in this specifically, but I'm a little curious. What were some games that you guys ended up growing up with? Feel free to leave something down below. Let me know. But I guess all right, that'll do us for this one. Finishing off signing the bottom of the TV like one of those old Sanyos or Panasonics. I hope you guys all enjoyed this. Thank you all so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, Feel free to hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of my videos as they come out, go ahead and subscribe. It's free, and if at any point in time you decide against it, you can always unsubscribe later. Any suggestions for a future video? Yeah, comment down below, I guess, guys. Otherwise, that'll do it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching it. Bye.